Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into today's Author Talk series brought to you by the Library Speakers Consortium. The Library Speakers Consortium is a partnership of more than 500 library systems across the US, Canada, and New Zealand with the goal of making author talks more accessible to communities of all sizes. I am Brandon Adler, your host and moderator in conversation with each of the acclaimed authors and presenters that you will hear from throughout our series. Today, we are honored to welcome award-winning author Vanessa Riley here to chat with us about her newest book, Fire, Sword, and Sea. I know everyone's ready to get started, but before we begin, I'd like to give that standard housekeeping information that keeps everything running smoothly. We have compiled some questions that were pre-submitted with registration, but you can continue to submit questions during the talk by clicking the questions button that's just below the live stream video. If you have a question now, feel free to submit it now. Keep in mind, there are a lot of you tuning in today, so we will get to as many questions as time allows. And don't worry if you have to leave early for any reason whatsoever. All registrants will receive a link to the recording in about 24 hours. To add to today's fun, we're giving away 10 copies of Vanessa's book, Fire, Sword, and Sea. So for your chance to win a copy, please scroll down to the resources area. You'll find that below the live stream video as well to find the submission form. Keep in mind, the submission form is only open for those attending the live event. So it's open now, and it will remain open for the 15 minutes following the live event. Okay, to formally introduce our guest for today. Vanessa Riley is an award-winning author and proud recipient of the 2024 Georgia Mystery/Detective Fiction Author of the Year. She writes sagas and book club fiction that brings to life the hidden narratives of Black women and women of color in novels like Island Queen and Queen of Exiles. Her stories celebrate strong sisterhoods, diverse communities, and resilience across historical fiction, romance, and mystery genres. Her work has been featured in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Washington Post, Entertainment Weekly, NPR, Publishers Weekly, and the New York Times. Welcome, Vanessa.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
We are so happy to have you here. How are you this evening?
I've been waiting for this all week, and in between manuscripts and just doodling. And is it time yet? Can I, those kind of things. So I'm just excited to be here, and I'm excited to talk about Fire, Sword, and Sea.
I'm super excited to talk about Fire, Sword, and Sea as well. So the time is now. I guess to start us off, we do have some people who tune in without having read the book yet. So can you give us a quick synopsis of what Fire, Sword, and Sea is about?
Yes. Fire, Sword, and Sea is about piracy in the 1600s. Many of you are probably familiar with the 1700s, the golden age of piracy. This is before this. This is when piracy is legal. That's right, legal.
Okay.
It is sanctioned by the world governments. And primarily, it's, France and Britain and Portugal and the Dutch. They're giving pirates license to hit the two world powers, which are Spain and the Mughal Empire, the Muslim Mughal Empire. So those two empires have all the gold. They've got the resources. And if you're Britain, you want people to hit the Spanish Armada. You want them, as long as you give a nice little 10% tithe of, we will look the other way. We didn't do it. So you've got a world where this is an actual occupation that one could aspire to. And unfortunately, if you're a man, or fortunately for a man, this is very well something you could do. If you're a woman, though, in the 1600s, you have only two roles. You're to be a wife or a wench, or as a friend said, a hoe or a housewife. And you meet Jacquotte. Jacquotte she works in the tavern that her father owns, and she's waiting on pirates every day. She's serving them soup. She's hearing their dreams. She's hearing them talk about all this adventure. And then she's looking at her life saying, I want that. I want to be able to do this. So we follow her, things happen. She grows up. She literally dresses as a man, becomes a pirate, and not only just a regular pirate, but she actually rises through the ranks and becomes a pirate captain. So you're going to, you get this, and it's a piece of history that you've never heard about. You're going to see women in roles that you you might not have heard about. And you're going to see this dynamic, any moment you could die kind of life, and what it means to resist the system that you're born into, and to achieve your dreams.
Mhm. Well, that gives us an amazing sense of the world of the book. So let's step back for a moment and talk about maybe what first inspired you to write the story. Christine and several others are saying, what inspired you to write the story? It stands out as such a bold woman-centered adventure story.
Exactly. And as a writer, oftentimes you want to get away from your office, from normal life, and you want to go someplace else just to clear your head. And so I was in the middle of this drudgery, a writer's retreat in Jamaica.
Oh.
Yeah, that wasn't real drudgery.
Yeah.
But
back up.
Whenever I go somewhere in the United States or abroad, I want to see the local history. So if there's a museum or a festival, if I can line it up, I'm going to try and get there. But when I landed in Kingston, Kingston is very close to Port Royal. You literally fly over Port Royal. And for those who don't know, Port Royal is the Sodom and Gomorrah of the West Indies. On one day, it was hit by a tsunami, an earthquake, and fire. And half of it is now still at the bottom of the sea.
Wow.
The half that remains, there's Fort Charles. And so I went to Fort Charles and took the tour, and they're showing us the barracks, where famous Admiral Nelson actually was posted there once. And, all of this, I'm touching cannons, guys. I'm having a great time. And then they go, would you like to see the prisons? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to see a prison. Y'all might lose the locks or something like this. I'm not there. But she said, but that's where we kept the female pirates. Okay, I want to see this. So Anne Reed and Mary Bonny, or Anne Bonny and Mary Reed, were actually imprisoned in Fort Charles. So I go and I see the cell, and it just feels so different. But they're pirates in the 1720s, 1750s time frame. And I asked the question, well, we're in Jamaica. Were there any Black or Caribbean pirates, right? Because, we've all seen the movie. Do y'all have, were you part of this? Because Port Royal was a pirate haven. It's, Pettigoave, Tortuga. These are significant pirate havens where the pirates would go, and one ship could spend like $3,000 in one night going to the bars and whatnot. Wow. So I was like, are there any women, Black women, pirates? And so we all do what we normally do. We pulled out our phones. Mm-hmm. And we hit the Google, and the name Jacquotte Delahaye comes up. And I'm reading about her, and I get chills about this life of this woman. Once again, she's working in her father's tavern, and somehow she navigates the world and becomes a pirate captain. So that's where I found her. I honestly, I pitched it, and everybody was excited. And I think people are excited because they think Pirates of the Caribbean, which is such a fun movie. Maybe this was going to be girls' trip on a boat in the 1600s. But once you begin to peel back the onion and the layers of politics of this world and this narrow fit on what women could and couldn't do, it's a different type of story. Mm-hmm. You still get adventure, but shaped through the lens of Jacquotte, and what she did, what she had to rail against, how she fought back against a system meant to say you stay this small all the way. Mm-hmm. So I'm blessed to have found the story. The lives of these people, it just was amazing.
Well, I am thankful that you found the story as well, because what a story it is to read, especially through your lens and your recreation of it. Pam from Everett Roll Marshfield Public Library saying, can you talk about the importance of having swashbuckling heroines even today?
Oh, absolutely. We're centered, we're in the very beginning of Black History Month. And there are many out here who believe Black history starts in 1865. Mm. There are so many who believe these prescriptions from the Victorian era that women were small. They liked just doing gossip in and going to balls and partying, and that is a part of life. That is a significant element in lives, especially when your whole economic future is dependent upon who you marry. Because once again, you're falling, no matter what time frame you're in, you're falling into these roles where you have to marry well because you want to be a wife. You don't want to be working in a brothel or courtesan or whatever the time frames. So to find women who decided, no, I'm not going to follow the prescribed path, and I will do whatever it takes to have my dreams, was so important to bring to life. And these women, they lived in a time where they could die at any moment. Nothing was promised. And they had to, fight for every moment to have their dreams. So I love swashbuckling because I like to see women engaged, women fighting, literally fighting, picking up swords and defeating the foes, being, hold on, the book's falling. I want to see women acting in their gifts. When the story takes place, I take you through Jacquotte growing into her skills. Like I'll admit, and this is not a spoiler, she's not the best planner in the world at the beginning of the book. And that is very intentional because I want you to understand, to do something, you don't have to be magical. You don't have to be chosen. You don't have to be the chosen one. You just have to have the heart to do what you want to do. Jacquotte had the heart to be a pirate. She wanted that life. Did she want to be a captain in the beginning? Maybe, maybe not. But her skills that she developed through her life made her ready when the opportunity came.
And that translates perfectly to contemporary time, because it's very, as in the contemporary, it's very empowering to read this, even from the historical lens.
It's amazing because this book took me 2 years to write, and the situation of life isn't quite where we are now. And I do get, readers, I love you guys as you're writing in. Some of you do feel a little hopeless or helpless. And to read a story about women in an extremely oppressive society, finding their own and fighting for their dreams, I think that is something that we can all rally to today.
Absolutely. So that feels like the perfect lens to look a little more closely at Jacquotte herself. Can we talk about how you shaped her as a person and not just as a pirate? You spoke a little bit about, she wasn't the best planner in the beginning, but what else took place in that shaping of the person of Jacquotte?
Well, for her to be a pirate, especially a pirate captain, she had to have certain skills. She had to know how to fight. So when I found that she was working in her father's tavern, I keep, this image of knife work. I love, I'm a Food Network fan, especially old Food Network, where they showed, the and all this wonderful chopping and things like this. And so in my head, I had this vision of her just going to town on dolphin fish and which is, I think, modern day would be like tilapia, and going, all these different, cutting up the herbs and then practicing with her father's rapier and all of these different things. So to me, it was just so exciting to see her evolve, because once again, I don't want you to assume this is a magical person. I mean, we've read these books where you have to be chosen, and Jacquotte chose herself. She decided that this is the life she wanted, and she practiced, and everything she did, she tried to do the best job that she could possibly do. And so first, I say the first third of the book, you see her growing, storming, norming, finding relationships, defining who she is, so that moment when she steps on board the stolen frigate that becomes her pirate ship, she's ready. She's beyond ready at this point, because you see the journey that she's been there.
The courage, even like at leading up to her stepping on that first frigate, I was like, oh my, I was nervous for her. the the bravery. Okay, so Erica from Cuyahoga County Public Library says your work consistently brings Black women out of the margins of history and places them at the center with complexity, desire, and agency. In writing Jacquotte, especially her evolution from survival to liberation, what felt most important for you to protect? What felt most important for you to protect or honor about Black womanhood while navigating a world built on violence, secrecy, and power?
Ooh, that is a wonderful question. And it's kind of a fudging of everything, right? I want to honor the gifts, but at the same time, there is a picture sometimes of Black women being the saviors, of Black women having to be harder, more perceptive, unable to be vulnerable because we don't know who is an enemy and who's not. We don't, like one of the things I love about a pirate ship is it's a meritocracy. Everybody has one vote. And they're not asking who you are, or what race you are, or even who you love. They're asking, can you do the job?
Mm-hmm.
And once we go into battle and you have a weapon in your hand, are you stabbing me in the back? Or are you going after the enemies?
Mm-hmm.
So we get this picture of Jacquotte. She needed to learn how to trust because there are things that happened in her life that robbed her of that. Of being able to natively trust. There are elements in her life where she had to be braver maybe than she really was. And I take pains to show you that balance because once again, I don't want you to think she's magical. She had it all figured out. She's a superwoman. No, she is extremely human. That's why I showed some failures. I show some foolishness. And I show moments where she is vulnerable and that she may need a hero. Because that to me is all the facets of Black womanhood, of womanhood in general.
Mm-hmm.
And, in a Vanessa Riley book, you are going to feel loved. You're going to feel afraid. You're going to feel excitement. You're going to challenge yourself. You're there. I often say I write so that you are a witness to this history. But you're safe. You are secure because I know history can be so challenging. And there are there are a lot of bad things that happen in history. Let's be real. A lot of bad things happen in history. And I see people turning away because they don't want another pain porn narrative.
Sure.
I show you in measured tones the realities of the ground. And sometimes the realities on the ground is dangerous and sometimes it's violent. But I also show you the inners and the silent moments and the peaceful moments. And if I can find a moment of joy to add to show the complexity and depth of these characters, I want to do that because as someone who does historical fiction, primarily biographical historical fiction, I'm bringing a life back to you that you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I have to honor that person's life. So that means I've got to show them smart and savvy, silly, foolish, funny, scared. I have to restore their humanity because right now they're just a little line in some book, if they've gotten that far.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to be them, and I have to honor them, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You will get it all but within context of the story narrative.
Do you have a ritual, maybe post writing, that you have to kind of put your honor out there when you're finished with the story? Do you return to the story? Is there anything kind of ritualistic about your own writing?
So that's also a very good question, and it's layered. So when I'm writing a story, I kind of do it in 3 parts, right? So the first time I'm writing a story, I got to get to the end. I have an idea. I have narrative arcs. I've got some themes happening, but nothing is and it's particularly in a historical fiction, I've got the signpost. They were here on this date. They participated in this battle on this date. They met this person on this date. All these different, signposts and things like that. And I'm weaving in between it. But you got to get to the end. Now, once again, this version you will never see. Okay? This version might be slightly illiterate. This version will leave out all kind of gerunds and articles. This is a horrible version. It's a fast draft, but you have to kind of get the story. For me, just spitting it out there, that gets me the story.
The entire story in that
The
first.
entire story.
How long?
Now, then you step back and you get on your treadmill and you kind of run around a little bit. Then you step back and you go back to the story. And now you have a clear picture because I'm theming. So I go back the second time through, I'm theming. So, if I mention something, an object, and I take any time, this is just a Vanessa-ism. If I take any time on that object, it's an important object and you will see it again. Because I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not going to make you have all these facts in your head and there's no payoff. But I don't know what needs to be important till we get to the end. So in this book, there are several objects. And if you were able to get a pirate box, there are several objects that were extremely important. And you saw them utilized throughout the narrative. The third time through, that's the polish. That's the spit shine. That's where getting it all right. And we're playing with the prose. We may be playing with structure. For this particular book, we have the two, I didn't realize till I wrote the book that there are 2 twilights every day.
I didn't either until I read the book and I was like, oh, that makes complete sense.
Yeah. Trust me, gang, that doesn't come the first time. That's not even there really on this. It's like hints of it may be there on the second time. When we're in that third drafting stage, that's when the magic happens. So I do want all writers out there, if you think you're going to sit down and it's perfect coming out, no, you just need to get to the end. Editing is where magic happens. That's where the narrative takes its own life and it's telling you what it needs, but you got to get to the end.
Mm-hmm. And do you do anything special afterward, after it's to the editing process and all of that?
Yes, a box of Godiva chocolates.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, girl. And sometimes I will open the box prematurely, and when I get to a good section, and just kind of, But the Godiva chocolate is my go-to. I will tell you that right now.
I love it. Okay, so you talked about in the second draft, kind of like the themes starting to come together, and this novel explores a lot of big themes: freedom, justice, liberation, identity, love, loss, a lot of them. So which theme felt most urgent for you to explore?
Ooh, that's a good one. Women in leadership was a big theme. I find women lead differently than men. We are very community based. So it's typically what is going to be best for my community, what is going to be best to drive my people forward. Mm-hmm. So when you have a pirate ship and everyone's equal and they're all serving towards one goal, you can see how that naturally fits as a captain. I've got to protect my ship. What am I going to do to make sure my ship is in the best condition, that my men, my crew are in the best condition so that we can fight, so that we can get away, so that we can escape and do all the things that we need to do. And so that leadership, how to resist is another very big theme. When you're in a system that is oppressing you, there's debates on whether you should be at the table, make your own table, bring your own chair to that table, et cetera, et cetera. Well, there's times you don't even have wood to build a chair. What do you do? So resistance and how to resist is a very huge theme in this book as well.
Mm-hmm. So it's interesting that you say resistance, because the characters really explore kind of the tension between freedom and complicity and injustice. And I could translate that, even the freedom as resistance. So how does Jacquotte wrestle kind of with this morality of piracy? And what do you make of these trade-offs that she has to make when dealing with the slave trade?
Oh, absolutely. So one of the most interesting, most shocking thing that I discovered in my research was I was looking at these records from a captain, and it's a manifest of what was transported or what they were doing. And I see 17 guineas in a pewter vase, 5 guineas, some sort of urn. And then I start thinking, why are they using English measure guineas? The guineas founded like 1615. We're at 1650s, 1670s time frame. Would it have transmitted to the Caribbean? And then I'm looking at all the other documents. Everything's in Spanish money, Spanish reals. So even if you're English, if you're in the Caribbean, you're dealing in reals and pieces of 8. Then I read the pirate Henry Avery's letters. Henry Avery is one of the famous pirates. He actually hits the Mughal Empire and he escapes, and he's a legend. He was writing a letter of apology because piracy is thievery. You have to steal a ship. He stole an English frigate, and in this book, he's talking about his travels to Africa, and he's mentioning that all the people are Guinea. And then I go back to that record. So that record wasn't English coins that I was looking at. That was human beings.
Oh, wow.
And so when you look at it, piracy is illegal. I mean, is stealing, even though in the 1600s it's legal, but it's still stealing. So you have to reconcile that first in your head. You are taking, and you may kill someone with your sword or rapier. You may kill someone to take what they have. You've got to reconcile that. And now you're on this pirate ship, and everybody has a vote. Typically, when you stole from the Spanish or the Mughals, if they found you, they will kill you, and or kill you, torture you, and kill you. But you're signing a death warrant every hour you have this stolen goods on your ship. So some pirates would go and trade immediately for more wood or water. Some would use the universal currency, which was slaves. And so you're on this boat and you're all bound by your pirate oath, and you voted. If your boat votes to deal in chattel slavery, even if you don't agree with it, because you're part of this boat, you have to do it. So there's some votes that go Jacquotte's way. She's adamantly against enslavement. Her mother was enslaved. She's adamantly against it. And then there's some votes that don't go her way. How does she reconcile this? What does she do? And I needed to make sure everyone saw the complexities of this, because there are shades of gray. In my research, one of the things that was fun but also harrowing was I actually got on a frigate, a 4th-rate frigate, off of Key West.
Oh.
And yeah, because I want you to feel like you're there, so I've got to feel it, right?
Yeah.
And to me, just walking on the top deck, and you could feel the waves hitting the boat. You can feel when the sails change motion. I mean, you could feel all that. But I went to the cruise cabin. Cruise cabin is typically near the front of the boat, but I could still hear the water hitting the hull at the bottom. That means as you are a pirate and you're in your hammock and you're sleeping, you can hear chattel slavery. You can hear the moans and the cries of everybody in that hull as you're trying to sleep. To me, that's the layers. You can have a completely integrated pirates. The research shows 20 to 30% of the pirates in the Caribbean were Black or indigenous from this time frame.
Mm-hmm.
And that's perfectly acceptable. But you could also still be dealing in chattel slavery at the bottom of the boat.
Mm-hmm. There were, so you mentioned Henry Avery's letters, and then in the book, there were certainly times that felt too realistic to be fictional. And so I myself, as well as Anne, who registered through Upper Dublin Library, is asking what elements of the book are based on real events that you discovered through your research.
Yeah. Every one of the fights, every one of the battles are real battles. I used a lot of different pirate narratives, different Spanish battles, because I wanted that realism. I wanted you to feel like you were there. The stealing of the actual, if her frigate is actually based on Henry Avery's, well, how he took his first ship. Because you want that realism. You know, we watch the movies, the cling, clang, 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 but there's a lot more to it. And anytime you can read, you know, first person narratives, it gives you such richness. I wanted you to feel like you were there. And then math nerd over here, you know, there was math involved. I will admit this, because, you know, you have cannons and they're certain 1,000 feet above in the mountains in Pétiguave. I needed to know if it's a 20 pound, a 30 pound, a 15 pound, how far will it shoot? Because I needed to know when the boat would be free. They would no longer have to worry about be hitting with grape shot or cannonballs. And also the trajectory of where it would hit on the mast, so that when ones were successful, we knew what sails would be impaired, et cetera, et cetera. And then how that would manifest in how you were able to drive the boat to get. Yeah, so math was involved.
Is that part of yourself that you let reflect in Jacquotte? Because like when they raided St. Andrews, and then I could see the math on the page. She's like, no, we're not far enough away.
Yes.
So
yes.
Is there a reflection of yourself in Jacquotte? Was there anything else in there that was part of you?
Oh my goodness. Well, probably making the stew, making the fish stew.
Okay.
I love to cook. So making this fish stew was part of my joy. You know, but it's the moment. So like I, you know, went and swung rapiers. This is actually a fun story. I was working as a historical consultant on Sense and Sensibility for Hallmark. We were in Bulgaria. And if you get the international version of the movie, you'll see an actual fight scene, an actual sword scene. So we had a sword expert, and they were telling us, you know, how you have to hold the swords, you know, where's the best place to strike at. And it was like I think it's only ends up being like 20 seconds or like maybe barely a minute, but to show the realism of the fighting. So it was like, y'all don't know, y'all are just helping me inform the actual fighting scenes and the way that, you know, the heft of you as a writer, you want to absorb as much as you possibly can, but you want to put it back into the manuscript. So I was very fortunate to be able to bring these different elements to the page.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Okay, so I want to talk about Lizzôa, because Lizzôa was one of my favorite characters. Lizzôa, of course, is a woman that Jacquotte meets when she goes to Pétiguave. And Lizzôa presents herself in ways that, I guess, challenge the expectations of the world around her, then and even today for some, I suppose. When you were developing Lizzôa's character, how did you approach writing her identity with both authenticity and empathy?
Well, I had been doing a lot of reading, and I'd done a lot of research at the time. And so before Lizzôa became, I had been doing this research, and it was very focused on the shortage of white women in the Caribbean and how people were feeling that need. And I was looking at different indigenous tribes in particularly around Veracruz, how they were even enslaved to fill the needs. They would go and they'd capture them. But it wasn't the same as chattel slavery. They would, once they married, they would their children would be free, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm doing all these research, all this sort of stuff in my head, and this character comes to me. Now, that had never happened before. I will tell you all right now, that is never. Maybe I did too much research and different characterizations and whatnot, but a character has never come to me and told me what their story was.
Okay.
So I was within a finite bounds. So what happens? This is their story. But it's a representation or an amalgamation, Lizzôa, of what's happening in this time frame of people finding love where they find it, fitting in where they fit in, and not too many people are asking that many questions until something happens that forces the question. Like I said, they had a term on the boats for same-sex unions called métillages. It was to make sure that people understood that this was a relationship sanctioned by the captain, and that if anything happened, this would be how this person would get your goods. But it was a loving, consensual relationship, same sex, because allegedly, everybody on the boat are men, right? So the attitudes about relationships are extremely different. We picture the Victorian era where things are much stricter, where people are erasing already begin to erase bits of history because they don't want this lifestyle. They don't want these people to be focused and they want this pristine image in their own eyes to be showcased. But Lizzôa is important because there are people, the one indigenous tribe called them third gender, to represent, and to me it's an acknowledgement that we would call them trans, but they LGBTQ plus, they existed. They were part of this world. And I wrote with Sensitivity Care, we had a lot of sensitivity readers on here because one of the things are, when you are a marginalized individual writing about other marginalized populations, you don't want to do any harm. You don't want to do any harm. And so I am very thankful for William Morrow and my editor getting us sensitivity reads, lots of sensitivity reads to read this piece of history. But Lizzôa is an amalgamation of different stories that I read and then somehow became a character, was very demanding. This is my story. Tell my story like this.
Also makes complete sense for that character to be demanding.
Very much so.
Knows what they want.
Yeah. But, it's sometimes, to me, another way to look at it is, sometimes we have a prescribed look at what help should look like. Lizzôa to me is a dream igniter. Somebody in your life who listens to you and will make your dreams come true. That's how much they are invested in you. And sometimes we have people in our lives that want to help, but because it doesn't look like or doesn't sound like, we ignore it and we keep going on asking and crying out for help. So that was very, very important to me with Lizzôa.
Yeah. And we get to see the extension even later on when we meet Anne again. Anne is someone that Jacquotte saved from a pen on the beaches.
Yeah. And Anne and Michel Le Basque and Lawrence de Graff, and there's a few other, those are real people. All the governors, these are all real people. And they helped me find Jacquotte because, she's a snippet here and a snippet there. But Anne and Lawrence de Graff, they are so well documented because at different points they become pawns to various governments. So their histories are incredibly documented, time frames and all these sorts of. Michel Le Basque, incredibly documented. And so that helped me figuring out where Jacquotte was in different pieces of her life because of her friendships.
Where did you find your research? Where did you do your research?
Everything, everywhere. So if there is if there was a pirate narrative from 1500s all the way to about 1800s, I read it. I looked at different universities that have gone through and done significant deep dives. The LA Times has, I think from the 1990s or something. They were one of the, I will follow a rabbit hole so far. But they were one of the first ones that I discovered had broadcast this research that 20 to 30% of the pirates in the Caribbean were Black. And I was like, we got to find every element. So I love letters. So like, once again, I'm reading the pirate Henry Avery's forgiveness letters for his crimes. I'm reading about all of these different battles. Particularly, I am looking at every nonfiction accounting of these battles that match up with stats and specificities of what is going on. I've got manuals on frigate design. The research of trying to figure out how you scrape barnacles off the side of the hull. That was a little much. Y'all didn't really get that in the thing, but that's a thing, guys. That is really a thing.
Karen, who registered through Pennington Public Library, says, I'm writing a play about the adventures of a free Black West Indian woman on a privateer vessel on the eve of the American Revolution. What is your perspective on the challenges of women at sea?
Well, there's a big one, right? Which I address in the book because, many a time they ask, well, what happened with their menstrual cycle?
You do address that.
And I will give us a tiny spoiler. There are herbs that were known that could lessen fertility. That was particularly known in the West Indies. There are herbs that could lessen the actual existence of when it would happen. And then usually the diet was so poor, it was gone in about 2 months. So, those addressing, you have to address it in a way that sounds natural, as opposed to, let me just help y'all with what you're already thinking that this can't happen because of X, Y, and Z. Let me just fix it. So it's a balance between, let me just fix this, and as well as, these are real things. I want you to feel like you're there. That is a concern. These women were of birthing age. Something could happen. And if you've ever heard of pleating the belly, that's a real thing. Some woman has now was discovered on board and had a lover on board. She is now pregnant, and to get away, you pled the belly. I think Anne Bonny pled the belly when she was captured. So it's a thing. So but I'm telling you, it's really hard, especially if you've been to sea for more than 2 or 3 months with the quality of the diet.
Pleading the belly. Nope, that's a new one for me. Wish I would have known that when I was pregnant.
Girl, you can get out a lot of things. I can't do that. I have to plead the belly.
Yeah, right. Okay, Sonia from LA County Library is saying, what inspired the book title?
Okay, so the book changed titles a lot.
Okay.
The first time, I think it was called Black Lady Pirates or something like this, right? I think that's the circa girls trip era. Then that went away. Then it was Ashes on the Sea.
Okay, I can see that one.
I kind of like that one, but then I think sales came back. Is it a crematorium? So I do think Fire, Sword, and Sea was my editor's her suggestion. I think it's great.
Yeah,
because it captures all of the elements: the fire, holy fire, righteous fire, indignation, the sword of justice. Cutting through all the BS and making things happen. And in the sea, that's our dream. We want to go there. We want to own it. We want to do everything we possibly can on the sea. So Fire, Sword, and Sea makes complete sense now. But that wasn't where we started.
Was the beautiful line using Fire, Sword, and Sea always in there?
The what?
There's a beautiful line where you use the title of the book, Fire, Sword, and Sea. Was that added later?
That was added later.
Okay.
That's one of my little tells as an author. If I can work naturally the title into the book, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to tell you.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It's like, okay, there it is. There's the title. So you mentioned the sword, revenge. And and revenge is often intertwined with justice and the fight for liberation, especially Celia's revenge. It's very clear. She was very clear about that.
Very clear, very clear.
When those forces overlap in your character's choices, how did you decide where to draw the moral boundaries? And what, I guess, what do you want readers to really take away from that tension?
That, one, it is okay to be angry. Often women are told to not be angry. That I'm not saying you're not supposed to forgive. I believe in forgiveness, but I don't think it's a sin to be angry. I think that there are things that happen in life that are going to cause you to be mad, and you can be mad, and you may even be called to action because of that. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But there is a boundary of how far do you go in your anger. When does anger become sin, right? There are several incidents in the book. You mentioned one, a huge one, that something happens and it is because this character is incredibly angry and hurt on the inside. And justice is called, and she takes revenge. Nobody actually stopped her now, did they?
Nope.
So there was a lot of people sitting around thinking this was the right thing to do. But she did it. So the morality of the folks on the sidelines who watch things happen and don't stop it versus the person with the guts and the courage to actually do it. I want that to be something people talk about in book clubs. I am not here to judge, and my approach to any life that I bring back to you in a historical fiction is not to judge them, but to showcase their every aspect of their humanity. And you can be human and angry. You can be human and hurt. You can be human and hurt others. We're not two-dimensional. None of these characters are two-dimensional. And they're there to illustrate what the conditions on the ground were, what situations these women had to fight through, but also to reflect what one can do when you believe in yourself and your dreams. Mm-hmm. And I'm a person, you can be angry. It is okay to be angry. Mm-hmm. You just got to know what your own line is in the sand.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kara from New Orleans Public Library is saying, what is one thing we can learn from women pirates in the lens of our current events?
That you are enough. You can fight and win. You can fight and know when to go home, right? Sometimes you don't have to fight the whole battle out or the whole war. You might just win one battle and then go home. All of these are right answers. And I think that is the story. These women were brave. They made a choice. Sometimes people, stand in the background, wishing and hoping when all they needed to do was step forward. Mm-hmm. These women stepped forward. They lived their dreams. And I think we can too. We can be that brave. And we can be angry, and we can cry for justice, and we can enact justice. We just need to step forward.
Yeah. I think that's an amazing call to action. Step forward. Bobby submitted a question that said, at what age did you know that you were going to be an author? And did you always gravitate toward historical fiction when you were reading for pleasure?
Bobby, that's an excellent question. I knew very early on that writing was one of my gifts. And so I'm all the way back even to high school. I'm winning competitions, but I'm also on the math team. I'm president of the science club. And my mom sits me down, wonderful woman. Now, my mother, she was literature woman. So she makes sure we're reading Baldwin and Angelo and Thoreau and Shakespeare and Austen. She is, my children will be readers. My father is from Trinidad and Tobago, and he is telling us stories about, I'm the only girl, little girl, let me tell you about this woman who did X, Y, and Z. Because he was always with the stories, telling me things to encourage me. And my mom saw that, if we can go the math route, we can go the writer route. And so she literally sits me down and she's like, baby, you always need to pay your bills. So we went the math route. She's absolutely right. Had a wonderful career with General Motors and Hewlett Packard and NASA and a whole bunch of startups, and had a wonderful time. But when you have a gift, it's going to keep knocking. And I remember one boss was like, Vanessa, this die-cast manufacturing report is way too interesting. I need you to pull it back a little bit. So there's a part in my life where I was 9 to 5 working in engineering. I'd come home, do that wife and mom thing for a minute. And then from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., I'm writing. And I'm loving every minute of it. And when you have it's going to come for you. And listen to the calling. Make room in your life for the calling and see where it'll go.
That's great advice. Also a great story. Their die-cast report was too interesting. Nicole is saying, you are a prolific author in a challenging industry. How do you navigate the art of authorship with the business of publishing? And also, how do you schedule time for fun?
Okay.
And a lively social media presence.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So the landscape has definitely changed. And as an author, you're kind of split now. You don't, the luxury of, if you ever thought there was a luxury of just writing the book and putting it out there, no, you have got to market it. And with every book, this is book number 29 for me. You have to make a decision how hard you are willing to go to get a story out. And for me, this book has had a lot of challenges. We've had $1 billion corporation sell me that I can't use the word enslaved.
Huh?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's been fun. There just been all kind of porch pirates stealing arcs. I mean, it's just, you name it. There has the journey to this book has had this. But I said to myself, if the world is trying to stop a story this badly, then I need to work just as hard to get the message out. There is something about women in leadership, women's resistance, women coming to the front of the line and saying, no, we are not going to do this. We are going to do X. We want X. I think that is so important. And seeing how women with less resources than we have, with less agency, with less access to technology or all of that, being able to live their dreams, I think that is so important for right now, when people are scared, when people don't know what to do. And I think we can take courage from our foremothers, people who've gone ahead and done it and did something very, very important. So I find the time. Like there's certain social medias. If you follow me on Instagram, that's one of my favorite places to go. I'm on other places. I'm loving Substack now because I write essays on a weekly basis, just because I made a promise to myself to not go crazy. It was called Rite of Passage over there on Substack. It's on a whole bunch of other places, YouTube, you name it.
Okay.
But it just, you have to figure out what you are willing to do. And if you're not comfortable, then get a newsletter and just write to people who follow you. I send a newsletter out to my followers to let them know what's happening. I mean, I figure if you signed up, you want to know what's going on. So I'm going to tell you, do what you feel, do what you feel is comfortable, because if you're not comfortable, it's going to come across as inauthentic. And people want to follow or to listen to somebody who's authentic, somebody who feels it. But at the end of the day, you've got to decide how much you want your story out there. I want people to pick up Fire, Sword, and Sea. I hope that every one of these libraries, that this book is back ordered or whatever they call it, because I want women and men, because there are men in this book too that are doing very fun, very interesting things. I want them to read it and get hope and battle plans and be legal pirates.
Yes, yes, absolutely. That makes me think of the book through an even bigger lens now. That's incredible. Okay. So we were talking a little bit about this before we went live, which was the movie situation. We had a lot of people asking. Patty from Penn Hills Library is one of them. Are there any plans to turn the book into a movie? And I can already tell you that I can picture who I would want to play Jacquotte.
Tell us. Come on, Brandon, tell us.
Zoe Saldana.
I could see it. I could see it.
I
I love the thing I would love about this is gonna be an ensemble cast. So you could have a whole bunch of pirates.
Yes, exactly.
You know, it could be great fun. And then you could have some retired pirates just showing up. Like some of
just showing up out of nowhere.
You know, there's a couple brothel and bar scenes. You could have the people just retired pirates. I mean,
just sitting outside the tavern.
But you know, it's I think it's cinematic. I think the way I've written it can make a screenwriter's mind just go there. It's I drop you on a boat, you feel like you're there. I think those are the type of stories that do well in translation, because books and film, two different animals. But I think somebody could take this and just do some amazing things, because it's got the action, it's got love stories, it's got intrigue, it's got danger, it's got bombs, man. I mean,
I know
it's everything that you would want.
Disasters. It's got everything.
It's got everything. The costuming would be insane. I think it just everything would be just so much fun.
Well, but that's just going to win somebody an Oscar.
I know. Ruth, please.
Yes. Come on.
Right.
Can there is a small spoiler, but there is a big natural disaster event that happens in the book that I immediately had to Google to see if it really happened. And I was like, oh my God. And you mentioned it earlier, you know, Port Royal is now, half of it is still in the sea. It's in the sea.
I mean, it's just, the girls' trip theme just disappeared so quickly. Once you do the actual research, it just disappears. And to me, that is just such an amazing thing. With the half of it's gone, and the reports of seeing boats, just the water moving, and you see the boats that have already sunken.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is just so much that can be done with that. And to me, it was a moment. Port Royal is very important through the story because it's a pirate cove.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just lent to the story, and the time frame, to me, the time frames matched up. So when you read a Vanessa Riley book, even if there's something really cool happening, I'm not going to move the story no, it's got to be natural to the story. It's got to fit the timeline. Yeah. I try to learn cradle to grave for all of my characters, so that I know where they are and what they could be doing. I'm not going to put them someplace that they couldn't feasibly be.
Yeah.
Or they're not documented to be in those particular areas. Because this may be your first time reading about this type of history, and I'm going to try and stay as close to the narrative as possible to deliver, one, a great story, but two, to give you a great segue into this history.
Mm-hmm. No, beautiful, beautiful work. Okay, I know we're at the end of the hour, so I want to ask you the same question that I love to ask every author. What are you reading right now that everyone should run to the library and check out immediately?
Yes. So I am reading Legend Born.
Okay, great. That's a good one.
I'm a binge reader. So we got Vanessa Miller's The American Queen. This is coming out next week. Keeper Lost Children by Sadiko Johnson. It's amazing. Harlem Rhapsody by Victoria Christopher Murray. Another amazing read. Gets you really into the Harlem Renaissance era and some of the burgeoning writers. I mean, it's just a great behind the scenes. And of course, Guilty Pleasures, Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garland.
Yes.
So I cannot read that much while I am writing, but in between books, I will soak down things or reread my favorites.
Yeah.
just in that in-between time frame.
What is a book that you've reread more than any other?
Something Like Love by Beverly Jenkins. Kindred by Octavia Butler. I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings by Maya Angelou.
Okay.
Multiple times.
Amazing. Wow, those are all great recommendations. Thank you so much. We'll have a lot to drop into the resources area for our viewers. So people like to go back and see what was recommended. Also, can you name your Substack again so that we can get that in the resources area?
It's Rite of Passage by Vanessa Riley.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I had such a great time talking to you, and I had such an amazing time reading your book. Sometimes I would stop because I would listen to it and read it, and I would stop in the middle of the kitchen and go, oh, no. Like, just be walking around. Thank you for sharing your beautiful work with us.
This is my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I also want to extend a huge thank you to all of our viewers for tuning in. Without your support, none of this would be possible, and we thank you for choosing to spend your time with us. As a reminder, I just mentioned, if you scroll down to that resources area below the live stream video, you'll find a link to Vanessa's book. We will add the links for the Substack and the book recommendations. And don't forget, you can submit to win a copy of the book. So that form will be live for the next 13 minutes. So make sure you go and fill out that form. We look forward to everyone joining us next week on February 12th to chat with author Professor Lindsay Stewart about her book, The Conjuring of America, Mojos, Mermaids, Medicine, and 400 Years of Black Women's Magic. Be sure to register for this and lots of other great events on your library's event page. I am Brandon Adler, and thank you for joining us.